Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My dear students, I think all of you are keep safe and stay home, and all of you are well. I am also fine and safe from COVID-19. Today I will discuss on chapter 6, Media of Communication. At first, I would like to give the definition of oral communication. In oral communication, mainly deals with face-to-face conversation, speech, telephone conversation, audio, video, television, voice over internet. Actually, it has never used written instruments, actually used spoken words. Oral communication takes place in face-to-face conversations, group discussions, telephone calls, and other circumstances in which spoken word is used to express meaning. According to Ricky W. Griffin, oral communication takes place when spoken words are used to transfer information and understanding from one person to another. Now, advantages of oral communication. There are many advantages of oral communication than written communication. First of all, time saving, quick feedback, application in special areas, powerful means of persuasion and control, saving money, effective for all, more reliable, flexibility, complete understanding. Now in discussion details. Time saving. Time is very important in any kind of communication. When we go through in written communication, we need more times and follow more formalities. But when we go through in oral communication, its important advantage is saving our valuable time, because there is a scope to repeat or immediate action when it is required. When the workload becomes high, the executives just transmit a message over telephone or call, or give a oral instructions to the subordinates. Next advantage is quick feedback. Another important advantage of oral communication is that it produces quick feedback. It is not possible in case of written communication, but in oral communication, it is possible for all users. Quick or immediate feedback can be get, and immediate decision and action can be taken by the high official or by the subordinate. Anyone is required. Next advantage of oral communication is special areas or field for application. Oral communication is more useful in communicating messages with groups at assemblies, meetings, etc. Senior officers can motivate the subordinates by using the face-to-face oral conversation. Another important advantage of oral communication is powerful means of persuasion and control. Speech oral communication is a powerful means of persuasion or control over the circumstances, or any undesirable situation can be avoided through the oral communication. It is not possible for in case of written communication. Next, saving money. In any business, every businessman try to save their minimize their cost and maximize their benefits. And in this case, they always try to follow the medium of communication which is less costly. So oral communication is important advantage to save money. In case of written communication, you need some instruments that incurs cost, but in more oral communication, it saves money because only you can conduct over phone or face-to-face conversation is possible, and it helps to save your money. Next advantage of oral communication is effective for all. In written communication, it is appropriate only for literate people or literate person, but in oral communication is suitable for both literate and illiterate people. More reliable. Every employee is feel more secure or reliable in case of oral message than written message, because written messages always give evidence, but in sometimes evidence shows evidence can go against the message givers. For this reason, they feel free or more reliable in case of oral communication. Next important advantage of oral communication is flexibility. Like written communication, it doesn't require to maintain formalities, but in case of oral communication, you need not to maintain any formalities. You can just throw your message to your subordinates or to your high officials in orally, and for this reason you need not maintain some official formalities. Another important advantage of oral communication is complete understanding. In case of oral communication, the receiver can ask any question directly to the sender for better understanding of the message clearly. Like some advantages of oral communication, they have some disadvantages of oral communication. Following are the disadvantages of oral communication, like emotion, no legal validity, absence of permanent record, problem for distance people, unsuitable for lengthy message, confused speech, greater chance of misunderstanding, distortion of meaning, uneasiness to fix responsibility, risk of lack of secret information, etc. In details discussion, first we can go to the first point, emotion. In written communication, there is no scope of using emotion, but in oral communication, the speakers may be emotional that make the message complex to understand clearly. Another important disadvantage of oral communication, when you go through informal communication, always requires to legal evidence. But in case of oral communication, there is no chance to keep a legal evidence or legal validity unless they are tapped or written or made a permanent record. There is a this is a major drawback of oral communication. Another important disadvantage of oral communication, absence of permanent record. Oral communication is mainly deal with face-to-face conversation in a speech, in a seminar speech. So it's a great drawback of permanent record. The messages are not kept or preserved permanently when it is required. Another disadvantage of oral communication is problem for distance people. In case of written communication, you can send a letter to the distance people, but in case of oral communication, you cannot send your message or cannot give your face-to-face speech for distance people. It's another drawback of oral communication. Unsuitable for lengthy messages. In case of lengthy speech or long duration speech, it is not suitable for lengthy messages. Or any case of long time duration, it is not suitable of oral communication. But in this case, written communication is required to give the long speech or any long message. So oral communication mainly suitable for short speech or brief instruction or instant instruction is suitable. Confused speech. Sometimes oral communication creates confused among the listener because some speakers use colloquial language which may not be understanding to the another region people. So this message can be creates confusion in the receiver's mind. Greater chance of misunderstanding. In case of written communication, there is no chance of misunderstanding both the sender and the receiver. But in case of oral communication, may create a misunderstanding both the sender and the receiver. Distortion of meaning. The meaning of oral messages may be distorted easily as they are not filed instantly, and distorted message always creates confusion, but it never creates confusion in case of written communication. Next, our another topic is meaning of visual communication. Visual communication means such communication which is used by the speaker as facial expression, gesture, eye contact, signals, map, chart, poster, etc. It also includes graphic design, illustration, and animation, books, prints, magazines, screen-based media, interactive web design, short film, design for advertising, promotion, corporate identity, and packaging design, etc. Visual presentation of information and data is having an increasing impact on our practical life. Visual communication is not alone sufficient for exchanging information. For example, to indicate danger, we use a red sign. To indicate no smoking, we use an image showing a lighted cigarette with a cross mark on it. So, visual communication is a communication where the ideas and information can be read or viewed through the means of visual aid. Now, I will discuss the advantage of visual communication. Nowadays, most of the business organizations are using visual techniques to present the information. It is becoming very popular day by day. Visual presentation is beneficial for many reasons. Some of them are as follows. Effective for illiterate receiver. If the receivers are illiterate, the visual communication will be more effective to exchange information. They can easily understand the information that is presented visually. Next, helps in oral communication. Visual techniques can be used with oral communication. Oral communication becomes more meaningful if graphs, pictures, and diagrams are used with it. Easy explanation. Everyone can explain the meaning of it very easily. Easy explanation has made the visual techniques more popular. Next, simple presentation. Complex information, data, figures can be easily presented very simply on graphs, pictures, and diagrams. It is not possible in case of written communication or oral communication. Prevents wastage of time. Another important advantage of oral communication is visual techniques help to prevent the wastage of time. Time is very important in every kind of communication. So written and oral communication takes much time to exchange information, but number of receivers can be communicated at a time through visual methods. Helps in quick decision. Like oral communication, visual communication also helps to take quick decision. So management prefers visual techniques to communicate with others. Popular. Visual communication is very much popular because people do not like much speech and long explanation rather than a chart of a diagram. Others, artful presentation adds impact to the information, quicker understanding. For everything, visual communication is more advantageous than written and oral communication. Like written communication and oral communication, visual communication also have some limitations. First of all, costly. The visual methods of communication are more costly than those of other methods because to draw maps, charts, diagram is costly. Next, complex presentation. Sometimes visual presentation of information becomes complex. The receiver cannot understand the meaning of the presentation. Another disadvantage of visual communication is incomplete method. This technique is considered as an incomplete method. Visual presentation is not sufficient to communicate effectively and clearly, but also it can be successfully used with oral communication. Another drawback of visual communication is wastage of time. Sometimes visual techniques take much time to communicate, whereas oral communication takes no time to exchange information. Difficult to understand. In visual communication, sometimes it is difficult to understand and requires a lot of repetitions in visual slide. Since it uses gesture, facial expressions, eye contact, touch, etc. for communicating with others, which may not be understandable for the simple and foolish people. Problem for general readers. General people are not prefers to communicate through visual communication with others. Sometimes it cannot create an impression upon people or listeners. It is less influential and cannot be used everywhere. Next, I will discuss on non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication is especially significant in intercultural situations. Researchers in communication suggest that many more feelings and intentions are sent and received non-verbally than verbally. There are some advantages of non-verbal communication. Complementary. Non-verbal cues complement a verbal message by adding to its meaning. You can pat someone you offended at the back as you say sorry to him or her. Easy presentation. Information can be easily presented in non-verbal communication through using visual, audio-visual, or silent means of non-verbal communication. Next, substituting non-verbal message may substitute for the verbal message, especially if it is blocked by noise, interruption, long distance, etc. For example, gestures, finger to lips to indicate need for quiet, facial expressions, a note instead of a yes. Assenting. Another important advantage of non-verbal communication is used to assent a verbal message. Verbal tone indicates the actual meaning of the specific words. Repeat. Used to repeat the verbal message. Example, point in a direction while stating directions. Another advantage of non-verbal communication is help to illiterate people. This communication uses gesture, facial expressions, eye contact, touching, etc., and without using any spoken or written word. So it is very much helpful for illiterate people. Another advantage of non-verbal communication is help to handicapped people. Non-verbal cues of communication greatly help in handicapped people, especially of deaf people. Deaf people exchange messages through the movements of hands, fingers, eyeballs, etc. Attractive presentation. Another important advantage of non-verbal communication is based on visual, picture, graph, sign, etc. that can be seen very much attractive. Reducing wastage of time is another important advantage of non-verbal communication. Is reduce the time of presentation. For this reason, it reduces the wastage of valuable time of the communicator. Quick expression of message, non-verbal cues of communication like sign, sign and symbol can also communicate some message very quickly than written or oral message. There are some drawbacks of non-verbal communication like other communication. Say for example, written communication, oral communication, visual communication. Vague and imprecise. Non-verbal communication is quite vague and imprecise. Since in this communication, there is no use of words or language which expresses clear meaning to the receiver. No dictionary can accurately classify them. For this reason, their meaning varies not only by culture and context, but by the degree of intention. Continuous. It is possible to stop talking in verbal communication, but it is generally not possible to stop non-verbal cues. Also, spoken language has a structure that makes it easier to tell when a subject has changed. For instance, to analyze its grammar. Non-verbal does not lend itself to these kinds of analysis. Multi-channel. While watching someone's eyes, you may miss something significant in a hand gesture. Everything is happening at once, and therefore it may be confusing to try to keep up with everything. Most of us simply do not do so, at least not concisely. Culture bound. Another important disadvantage of non-verbal communication is learned in childhood, passed on to you by your parents and others with whom you associate. Long conversations are not possible. In case of non-verbal communication, long conversation and necessary explanations are not possible. Also, no party can discuss the particular issues of the message. Difficult to understand. Sometimes it is difficult to understand and requires a lot of repetitions in non-verbal communication. Not everybody prefers. Everybody doesn't prefer to communicate through non-verbal communication with others. Lack of formality. In case of non-verbal communication, doesn't follow any rules, formalities, or structure like others communication. Costly. Another important drawback of non-verbal communication is it involves huge costs. For example, PowerPoint presentations, cinema, etc. are very much costly compared to other forms of communication. Another drawback of non-verbal communication is distortion of information since it uses gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, touch, sign, sound, paralanguage, etc. for communicating with others, there is a great possibility in distortion of information in nonverbal communication. Thank you to all. Thank you very much. If you, our lecture is up to this. So if you think any problem or feel to feel to understand it, you can contact with me. I hope all of you are well and fine, and please stay home and maintain social distance. God bless all of you. Thank you. Thank you very much.